Hello, welcome back. Today I'm going to discuss with you health-related quality of life. So a brief overview about what quality of life is. This is an overarching term that includes many different domains. The brief explanation of what quality of life is that it's an evaluation of both the positive and negative aspects of a person's general well-being and their ability to function in daily tasks. So just take a moment to think about what types of domains do you think affect quality of life. You can either write these down or think of them in your head. There are many different domains and titles of these domains that different organizations use. The ones I'm going to be talking about today are the ones by the World Health Organization, and they consider there to be 6 main domains in the quality of life. One is psychological, physical and mental health, which we'll talk about today, social, spiritual, economic, and environmental. And this is just a visual of the World Health Organization quality of life definition. As you can see, each one of these 6 domains are equally as important to each other, though today we're only going to touch on physical health. But just keep that in mind that each one of these are all highly important and can impact someone's quality of life. You may have heard the terms quality of life and standard of living used interchangeably, and that is the incorrect way to use them. They are both very different entities, and the differences between them should be noted. So, the quality of life is how people feel about their lives and about their ability to function in daily life, the perception of their health and their life quality. This is a subjective evaluation of themselves. We know that quality of life can impact physical and mental health, and we also know that physical and mental health can impact someone's quality of life. Also, chronic disease and treatments and illnesses can all impact quality of life. Whereas standard of living is a much broader, more stringent term, standard of living is the level of wealth, comfort, material goods, and necessities that are available to people that are in a certain geographical area. So some of the most common standard of livings that we compare are income, the quality and availability of jobs, affordable housing, education availability, life expectancy, healthcare access, or reduced healthcare access. There are a number of these that we could go on and on about, but these all determine a standard of living. A prime example of this is you can't find affordable housing in the city, so you move out to the suburbs where you can find affordable housing. And that lowers your standard of living, but it may increase your quality of life. Though, if you don't like commuting, then the standard of living may change and you may have to increase your standard of living, move to the city where you don't have to commute, and your quality of life also increases. Also, people can have a high quality of life and a low standard of living, or they can have a high standard of living and a low quality of life. They do not necessarily both correspond in the same direction. So it's important to note that standard of living may affect quality of life. So since this is an exercise psychology class, we're now going to start focusing on those health-related quality of life and exercise and physical activity and how those impact each other. Here is just a brief comparison of some research that I found that describe the differences between active people versus inactive people. And these were generally active and inactive was just basically described as people did physical activity on a regular basis. These might not have been meeting the physical activity guidelines per se. Though 11% of active people report fair or poor health, this increases to 30% of people who are inactive. So more inactive people report worse health status. Also, active people tend to have lower reports of poor mental and physical health than their inactive counterparts. Also, a recent survey showed that on average, active people reported having poor mental or physical health that kept them from their usual activities on an average of 2 days in the past month, whereas when asked this question in inactive people, they reported that poor mental or physical health kept them from usual activities on an average of 5 days. Also, active people are less likely to have a health-related limitation, and inactive people are more likely to have a health-related limitation. And what I mean by health-related limitation is injury, illness, chronic disease, anything that would impair them to be physically or mentally active. So this is important to note, whether the health-related limitation leads people to be inactive or whether people started as inactive and then that inactivity led to a health-related limitation occurring, such as you didn't exercise or have physical activity on a regular basis and you were eventually diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Or maybe you started with type 1 diabetes and because of that you became inactive. So it's important to note that these can impact each other, and we don't necessarily know the causal pathway between them. So we know that exercise and physical activity can improve health-related quality of life, which makes sense, logical sense, and the research does support that. The research also supports that obesity negatively impacts people's quality of life. So just a little question for yourselves. Does exercise or weight status, so by weight status I mean either the category of underweight, normal weight, overweight, or obese, or even body mass index, does exercise or weight status have more of an impact on health-related quality of life? So just take a second to think of what you think the answer is, or write it down. Exercise. So the research shows that exercise has a greater impact on quality of life regardless of a person's weight status or whether they are actively losing weight or have lost weight. So regardless of whether someone is obese or has not lost any weight or has even gained weight, exercise and physical activity has still shown to improve that health-related quality of life. More focus on sedentary behavior. So sedentary behavior has been less studied with its connection to health-related quality of life, though some of the research that is out there does show that people who engage in regular sedentary behaviors such as watching TV, playing video games, using a computer, reading, tend to have a lower quality of life, though we definitely need a lot more exploration into how sedentary behavior really connects to quality of life and whether this impacts function of daily tasks or their perception of their own health. So just a few questions for you to ponder. Does exercise motivate people to improve their health-related quality of life? So when we exercise, does that just naturally improve our quality of life? Or does starting with a high quality of life motivate people to exercise? So do you start feeling really, really good about life and your ability to function and live your life normally? Does that motivate you to exercise more or to even engage in exercise? Or is the exercise motivating you to change your quality of life and your perception? It's important to note that we typically think of this as like exercise is the motivation. Exercise improves health-related quality of life and just overall quality of life. But it may be too that those people that start off with a high quality of life are also more naturally motivated to exercise, or when you're feeling good, it's easier for someone to keep engaging in those healthy behaviors. So it's really important to look at the reverse way too. We can always tell people to exercise more to improve their quality of life, but what do we do if you already have a high quality of life? How can we take these perceptions of those people who start with a high quality of life and give motivation and support for others to exercise. Special populations. So there tend to be a lower health-related quality of life in those with chronic diseases or illnesses. Some of the most common are cancer, diabetes, older adults. Often in these special populations, exercise is used as an intervention to start trying to improve quality of life. This is specific to each population. So these exercise interventions are specific to people who have cancer, people who have MS, people who have spine disorders or traumatic brain injuries. These are all very specific to each of those populations, and those exercise interventions are going to look different across the populations. An important thing to note about exercise interventions is that the timing of it really may impact someone. So is this pre-treatment, during treatment, or post-treatment? Or have they already fully recovered and are now engaging in this intervention, or are they still recovering from treatment of some type? And that's going to majorly impact what types and kinds of exercise that they can do, and the type of exercise is going to be very dependent and sensitive to whatever illness or chronic disease they're dealing with. Also, exercise has been used to improve quality of life in older adults. They define this as age 60 or older. And this has basically mainly been targeted at to increase function and improve daily living, which therefore improves quality of life. Though research has heavily focused on quality of life and how it impacts mortality rates. Though we're starting to delve more into this and not just focus on those mortality rates. We want to know, are people enjoying their life? Are they able to function? Are they able to do what they want to do? More so than just looking at our death rate numbers. Trying to focus on what's going on when people are still alive. Are they really enjoying their time? So just remember that quality of life is more than just those mortality rates. So prior to asking these questions, I'm going to show you a few videos that are from cancer survivors and people who underwent cancer treatment. So I just want you to have in the back of your mind thinking about this health-related quality of life while you listen to these two short videos.
I do think it's important to find other cancer survivors to talk to and share our stories with. And it's just kind of a sense of camaraderie, you know, and especially if they've gone through it and they're done and they're just in their post-treatment just trying to start their life over again. It kind of gives you hope as well, you know, one day that's going to be me. My friend Audrey, her hair is growing back, and I just remember when it first came in, it's so cute, it's so curly, and I was thinking, I can't wait, you know, it's just an example that, you know, she's thriving, and she's a strong, healthy person, and I'm going to be like that one day, you know, and my hair is going to be growing back, and it's going to be exciting. Before, like a couple days before I was diagnosed, when I was having all the chest pain, I went to student services building at my college, and I was supposed to go that day and get my student insurance so that the next day I could go to the doctor to figure out what was wrong. But I was in so much pain that instead of going there, I went to the office across the hall to the doctor or whatever, and when she couldn't figure out what was wrong and she thought I needed more tests, she said it'd probably be a good idea if you got the student insurance today so that it'd be effective today. So I kind of lucked into it, and because I was a student still, it was able to cover my bills, which that in itself took forever for them to pay for all that stuff. And it was like they were saying it was a pre-existing condition and that they weren't going to pay. They balked for a really long time. The insurance companies did. So it was a hassle. It's a big hassle, and it was stressful. I was being diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't know if my bills were going to get paid. And I'm not under my parents' insurance, you know. So yeah, it was really stressful. A lot of organizations help people that are in need that don't have insurance. They help pay for certain bills. Apply for government assistance as much as, a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. You'd be surprised how much they help you. They've helped me a lot, so I would just say, just keep looking. It's a lot of papers to fill out, but it's so worth it. Hope is like a big part of it. And having faith and that you're going to get better is so important. And it's a positive attitude. If I'm feeling down, I can always tell because I feel kind of achy and I feel kind of gross and don't really feel all that great. But the days, which are most days, that I feel positive and upbeat, I feel fine. I haven't taken pain medicine since December, and that's huge. So I guess it's just, I pray when I can, and I just I'm thankful for feeling good, and I say that, and it continues on. I'm Christy Campbell, I'm 24 years old, and I'm a neuroblastoma survivor.
Thank you for listening to that video, and now I'm going to quickly play another 2 to 3 minute video from a woman who's a little bit older who may have had a different experience going through cancer.
The radical hysterectomy is a pain that I've never felt in my life. I was in so much pain. And my mother and my best friend, they're so sweet. They came and they stayed with me in the hospital the whole time. And I actually kissed them. I told them that I loved them. And I told them goodbye because the pain was like just so unbearable. And I think that's the one time during my whole journey with this cancer life that I actually gave up. I was just like, and it's not that I wanted to give up. I just felt like I couldn't hold on anymore because the pain was unbearable. There are lots of hormonal changes going on, and it's only been 2 years, so I'm really trying to get used to it. I have a lot of problems with my back, and it's just the aches and pains are slowly going away, but you just take it one day at a time, and you hope for the best, like maybe tomorrow it won't be as much pain as there was today. One thing that's important is to always tell the doctors when you have a pain, no matter how little it is. It may just be a little prick or just a little tingling feeling or a sensation that you have somewhere. And I think it's just really important to let them know. They need to know when you feel pain so they can kind of, chart that and see if it may be something else. Like mine ended up being, I had a blood clot, I had a fever, and I had these pains in my lower pelvic area. They kept coming back. And, just no matter how bad the pain is, just really try to hold on because it'll be over soon. Because of the cancer history in my family that's crazy, now I'm worried about different cancers coming, and, I try to get tested as much as possible. I write little notes to myself. I have Post-it notes everywhere at work, at my office, at my home office. I have them at home, just anywhere I can put Post-it notes. I even have this little notepad that I keep in my car, and I try to keep my doctor appointments because if something is there, I want to catch it early because I think with my cervical cancer, in hindsight now, there were little signs, but I let them go, and maybe if I would have listened to my body a little earlier, I would have caught some of those things. Because I had to have a hysterectomy, chemo, and radiation, I won't be able to conceive my own children. I think being 25 and when your choice is taken away from you, it's really hard, and that's been the biggest challenge for me because even though it's 2 years later, I still can't really deal with the fact that I can't physically create life. There was a time when I would go into the mall and if I saw pregnant women or women with their children, I would become so emotionally distraught that I would just have to leave. There was a time when I couldn't even hold my own nephew because I would just look at him and it would just make me feel like I'll never have this experience. And as I progress with the new me with cancer, I know the different options, and I know that somehow, some way, I'm meant to be a mother. My name is Tamika Felder. I'm 28 years old, and I'm a cervical cancer survivor.
So, reflecting on both of those women's stories, just ask these questions to yourself, jot them down if you'd like, or just think of them. How could cancer affect your health-related quality of life or someone else's quality of life? Just think about how those different time periods, recurring cancers, treatment, insurance stresses, your family, friends, job. Think about how all of those things would affect your health-related quality of life. Secondly, after watching these videos, do these videos change the way that you think, or maybe how you might interact or work with people who are experiencing an aspect of cancer, whether that be a diagnosis, a treatment, post-treatment, fear of reoccurrence? Do these videos and hearing these stories impact how you think you might work with people who might be experiencing cancer or have a relative or friend who's experiencing cancer? And lastly, do you think standard of living can impact our health-related quality of life for those who are experiencing illnesses or diseases? So does that quality of life, can that impact how we perceive our health-related quality of life? Maybe access to healthcare, access to education, commuting distance, maybe all those income, maybe all those standards can also have an impact. And how can we change that? How can we improve our health-related quality of life for those that may have a low standard of living? Okay, moving on to positive psychology. So this one is a relatively new aspect of the psychology field. So there's three main purposes of positive psychology. So the first purpose is lead a meaningful and fulfilling lives, foster what is best within themselves and within people, and enhancing people's experiences of love, work, and play. So those are the three foundations of positive psychology. So as you can see in this cute cartoon over here, incidentally, what is happiness? In psychology and with mental health, we tend to always focus on, and with physical health, all of the negative health outcomes that could happen. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic fatigue syndrome. But we don't focus as much on, were you happy? Did you have positive feelings? Did you have a positive body image? And positive psychology is really delving into why people are happy. Why are people experiencing these positive emotions, not just those negative emotions? There is fewer research available in the positive psychology and health world, though it is growing. Specifically, though, research teams have focused on looking at low intensity exercise. So I know we hear a lot about moderate to vigorous intensity exercise, but moderate to vigorous exercise may not be realistic for those people who are having extreme fatigue, going through cancer treatment, or people with fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, and it just may not be feasible. It may help, but it may not be realistic. Therefore, a lot of studies have focused on low intensity exercise, and they've found that engaging in regular low intensity exercise actually reduces fatigue, and improves vigor, mood, and function. So maybe encouraging those certain populations and certain groups of people to just do very low, light intensity exercise to have these positive attributes. Happiness. So this is a big component of positive psychology. So happiness is something we really care deeply about. It's defined as the state of mind or a feeling characterized by contentment, love, satisfaction, pleasure, or joy. Research has shown that happiness can actually reduce mortality risk. Don't remember what I said before, mortality risk is not everything. And unhappiness has been shown to be related to depression, cardiovascular disease, a lower immune response, and a shorter lifespan. Cell phone use. So I think this topic is particularly interesting to those of us who are either attending college or work in a college system, or actually anyone right now. But we know that in the college student population, smartphones are super important. We're always checking our grades, we're always checking our email, we're always on Instagram, we're always using them. Though research has shown that a higher cell phone usage can actually have negative health outcomes, so they've connected high cell phone usage to a lower cardiorespiratory fitness, an increase in sedentary behavior, increases in anxiety, and it's also been shown to negatively impact GPA and lower life satisfaction. So just a little activity here. Think about if your cell phone and using your cell phone has a positive or negative impact on your quality of life, specifically the health-related quality of life. So for example, are you usually sedentary when you're using your phone? Or are you always exercising or being physically active when you use your phone? Does it cause you to evaluate your quality of life and your health? Or does using your phone make you more anxious, focus less? Just think about how your cell phone usage affects you. Secondly, over the next few days, try reducing your cell phone usage and just reflect on how it affects your life satisfaction. So just before you go to bed or in the morning, just think about or write down how you think using your cell phone less is affecting how you're satisfied with life. Are you more satisfied, less satisfied, or does it not matter to you? Is it exactly the same? Just try to reflect on that and see what you find. So I just want to conclude this lecture just by making some main points that we learned. So we know that exercise, physical activity, and sedentary behavior can impact positive characteristics, not only negative health outcomes. So focusing on those positive moods, positive body image, happiness, not just the negative health outcomes. Also, health-related quality of life impacts each individual and populations differently. And health-related quality of life is only one of the 6 domains, as by the World Health Organization. So there are 5 other domains that are equally as important to a person's quality of life. Think about the differences of standard of living and quality of life and how they may impact each other. Also, quality of life is an aspect that should be addressed in clinical settings, communities, research settings, fitness settings. Quality of life is very important, and when we're working with people and trying to improve health and their perceived health, we really need to focus on addressing their quality of life. What is it that they want to be able to do? What would improve their quality of life? And then kind of tailor our suggested healthy habits in exercise and physical activity to that. So just thinking of that, low intensity exercise still improves function and mood in certain populations. Maybe not everyone has to do moderate to vigorous exercise. There are still benefits that we can make, and we should be addressing these as professionals who are interested in the health field. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate talking with you guys. Also, if you have any questions about this lecture or you want to talk about other emphasis areas in kinesiology or health fields, you can feel free to contact me. I have my email listed here, or you can always ask Kate. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a great day.